Chapter 7. The Buyers. The Good, the Better, and the Best. Just by virtue of being a woman, you've likely had your share of heartache from consumers. From the charismatic and sexy player who hooked you just to have his fun and flee in a month, to the wonderful mixed messages consumer to whom you gave more than a few years of your life, loving him and trying to make him see the light, and all variations thereof. Yes, there are three things on which all women can count on in life: death, taxes, and consumers. But along with the consumers, you've likely also had several buyers cross your path, and for one reason or another, something happened to cause you or the buyer to stumble and not complete the journey to a lifetime of love and commitment. You've previously reviewed the list of consumer characteristics that outline a man's state when not ready, willing, or able to commit. Now we'll look at the buyers and discuss what it takes for a man to go the distance and bond to a woman he loves. A man is in the state of being a buyer when he has achieved his educational, career, or avocational goals, or believes he will be able to achieve them while in a relationship. A man is in the state of being a buyer when he has fulfilled the single life experiences he wants to have had before settling down with one woman. A man is in the state of being a buyer when he feels confident he can be faithful. A man is in the state of being a buyer when he is financially successful or stable enough to meet his responsibilities with little fear of failure. A man is in the state of being a buyer when he is in love. The prospective buyer. The prospective buyer is a man who doesn't give you any mixed messages. While he's not 100% sure of his readiness or willingness to make a long-term commitment, he is consistent in his love for you and shows himself to be able to be a committed partner. Most importantly, he is interested in you for more than just what you give him in the moment. The prospective buyer is either a consumer who is good at hiding his mixed emotions, or he currently has too many reservations about your relationship, his freedom needs, or his achievement level to have scored higher. A prospective buyer may be wrestling with concerns that he is likely not disclosing to you, but there is definitely something that is not quite lined up for him to be in the next category, the bona fide buyer. Don't make the mistake of believing that your prospective buyer just hasn't had enough time to decide. Remember, time is not a factor in determining a man's readiness, willingness, or ability to commit. If you've made up your mind that you wish to have this prospect as your life partner, you might find yourself fluctuating between being complacent and feeling like your relationship is in the bag, or running high with anxiety, trying to prove your worth and value to him in order to transform him into a bona fide buyer. Balance, calm, and supreme confidence are required to see this man move up the scale. Once scored in this range, it's best to make it a short time period of instituting simple, effective strategies that will ignite a prospective buyer's desire to lock down a committed relationship with you. Without the effective and meaningful ways of being and relating to a prospective buyer, time will pass, and his interest may simply smolder, or worse, cool off for good. How time factors in. Not. Time has meaning, value, and significance to women in terms of relationships. Women become nostalgic about months or years with their significant others and mark time in their relationships. This is our second Valentine's Day. This is the fourth dinner we've had with his parents. We make breakfast together every Sunday morning. We've been going there together for years. Until they've made a formal commitment, men don't think about their relationships in terms of time. This is because until men make a formal commitment, they are not bonded to a woman. Only when a man makes a formal commitment that bonds him to a woman will he begin to think about his relationship as part of his life's achievements. Why is this relevant in speaking about the prospective buyer? Because the amount of time spent with a prospective buyer or any man without getting to a formal commitment is directly counter to getting a commitment for the long run. In other words, the longer you continue in a relationship without it being formalized through a man deciding to commit, the less likely a man is to do so. Women bond through time and sex. Men bond by living up to their decisions, commitments, and responsibilities. Ever wonder why it's so commonplace for a man to be in a relationship or live with a woman for years or even decades, only to leave her and marry someone else? Have you also wondered why it is that the old adage, "men don't leave their wives," is also statistically true? The way men bond in relationships explains this quite easily. Cracking the bonding code. I pay great thanks to licensed professional counselor and mature, married, and thus bonded man, Bob Grant, LPC. Mr. Grant theorizes that men bond to women in only one way, by making a commitment. I wholeheartedly agree. I further believe that to truly bond, a man needs to decide to make a formal commitment, whereby he announces to the world and to himself that he is making the decision to take on the responsibility he believes commitment to be. Living together, as it is done in most cases, where there is no formal or legal announcement, contract, or ceremony, does not provide what a man needs to be formally committed and thus truly bonded. Not a ball and chain, just a leash. Remember when you were taking care of Scout for me? You were enjoying your time with him and you loved him. You weren't willing to take him as your own and commit to him because you were not ready and willing to take on the responsibility of him or of any puppy. You didn't feel able to take Scout as your own because of your finances and the changes you saw ahead of you, like moving, switching jobs, and traveling. But let's say, for the sake of argument, that when I asked you to take Scout, you decided to accept the responsibility. You said yes, and I dropped Scout off with his bed, food, sweaters, toys, leashes, collars, and anything else I thought you might need to take care of him. I gave you his latest shot reports and the number of the veterinarian he's seen in the past. We sealed the deal, and I cried as I kissed him goodbye. He went over to his favorite spot on your floor, lied down, and made himself at home. He looked up at you, lovingly panting away. Scout is now yours. You would likely go about your day and nothing will have felt all that different. For a while, the transition wouldn't seem that noticeable because your commitment to Scout made no logistical change in your hour-to-hour activities or routine. Logistically, things would be much the same as when you took care of Scout for me on the weekends. But despite the similarity to all that you've previously experienced with Scout, something now feels a little special. During walks, you find yourself telling the neighbors and store owners that you adopted Scout, committed to him. You stop at the pet shop and buy a special collar that is more to your taste, and you enjoy putting it around his neck, marking the commitment in an official way. On Monday, you call the veterinarian and explain that Scout is now yours. You make sure the vet has all your information and ask about getting a microchip ID for him because you like to let him run off-leash when you go to the beach and on hikes. You also get Scout's exact birth date so you can celebrate it. Each action subsequent to your decision reinforces your commitment and creates a bond to Scout that was previously missing. While you don't love him any more than you did when you took care of him for me, you now love him a little differently. You are now bonding with Scout because of the decision you made. Even though you were reluctant to take him, Once you made the decision to make him your responsibility, you followed through on the commitment, and now you are bonding to him. While walking Scout through the park, you picture what the future will be like for you with him as he ages. You think about what will happen if he ever gets sick and who you'll ask to take care of him when you travel. You think of the date you accepted my proposal and mark that as your anniversary. Scout is now totally your love and your responsibility. Your friends and family are so happy that you have a companion. They were worried you wouldn't ever adopt a furry friend that you love and are thrilled you committed to doing so. What happens when Scout misbehaves, annoys you, or poops on the carpet? Do you toss him out or want to return him? Do you think about taking him to a shelter and leaving him there? Of course not. While you might get angry if Scout chews an expensive pair of shoes, you don't simply shirk your responsibility. Because he is now yours and yours alone, you start to bond with Scout, and it will take more than feelings of anger or disappointment for you to do anything as big as reneging on the commitment you made. For all but the most egregious of reasons, you commit to Scout for a lifetime and don't ever consider giving him away just because there are times when you don't like him very much, he acts up, or costs you a fortune. You took on a responsibility and you're going to live up to it even when you don't much feel like it. This is what a man does when he makes a romantic commitment. While you bond because of your feelings, a man bonds through his decision-making related to what he sees as a responsibility. Just as you could love any puppy and mind it for a friend for as long as the friend will let you, you only bond to the pet to whom you commit. Most importantly, you committed via a decision, and once made, you do all in your power to live up to that decision, no matter your negative feelings from time to time. No matter his feelings, a man will live by his decisions in order to show the world that he doesn't make bad decisions and that he is not a failure. Failure is not an option. A man fills his identity needs from sucking it up in a bad situation once he has formally committed. Once a man makes a formal decision of which the world, loved ones, and friends are made aware, failure is no longer an option he will consider. To a man, failure means he is not competent to make good decisions, or worse, that he acts like a girl and reneges on decisions because of his feelings. To a man, failure means that he can't control his life and his environment. Failure means he does not have the mental strength to handle difficulty. Failure means he is weak in his resolve to stick things out when the going gets tough. Failure means he is not much of a man. This resistance to what men perceive as failure is why 80% of divorces are initiated and brought to the courts by women. Men don't want to fail or look like wimps who abandon their commitments. And if a man fails, he certainly doesn't want that failure to be public. In the next chapter, you'll find out why it is that statistically a man will cheat on his wife and not leave her, even if he loves the woman with whom he is cheating more than he loves his wife. For now, let's celebrate the resolve of men and give credit where credit is due. Let's be thankful that men live by and want to live up to their decisions. It's why we want so much for the man we love to make a decision to commit. It's why we want a man to be a bona fide buyer. The bona fide buyer. If your man has scored in this category, there are few if any questions about his feelings for you and desire to be with you. What you won't know with absolute certainty is where your guy is with the other 4 items on the list of buyer characteristics. It's likely, however, that a man who scores as a bona fide buyer is in a pretty good place with all items on the list. Regardless, if he hasn't locked this relationship down, there is something he is struggling with, either in himself, about the relationship, or about you. When a man decides, there is usually little to no wavering. Once the decision is made, a man lets it be known to all in his orbit. Therefore, no matter how connected and loving the relationship feels to you, until you have a formal commitment, your bona fide buyer has some reservation. His hesitation could be any number of things that have nothing to do with you, or something about you, despite loving you, that he feels unable to voice. Many men who find themselves in this situation run, or even hide, rather than face a woman directly. Working on the approaches and strategies that allow your bona fide buyer to disclose to you what his hesitation may be, without you overtly asking, is very useful. The subtle strategies tailored specifically to the details of your relationship are what will help an otherwise languishing in limbo live-in situation to move up to a joyful joint lifetime venture. If you're with a bona fide buyer who hasn't taken things to the next level, reading The Rules for Marriage is a great place to start. More support may be needed, but utilizing the rules for those in formally committed relationships can be very helpful to kick things off, possibly for next wedding season. I trust you got a lot of good information from today's video, and I enjoy bringing you content that is valuable for success in your romantic life. So don't forget to subscribe and hit the alert bell so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you want more on any of the content you see here, you can go to my book, Why Won't He Commit? How a Man Decides to Make You the One. You can order it at any fine retailer where you get your books. And if you want more on me or any of my programs, my podcast, go to coachpaulagrooms.com and we could be talking soon.